Okay, Unit 8, Test Study Guide, question number 22. A coin is tossed 3 times, and you're supposed to answer these probability questions about this. Okay, there are 2 ways to do these. One way is to just multiply together the probabilities of each of these events. So this one, kind of an easy one, would be the probability of getting heads on the first flip is 1/2. The probability of getting heads on the second flip is also 1/2. And the probability of getting heads on the third flip is 1/2 again. And so the probability of all of this happening is 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2, 8 possible outcomes. So the probability of all heads is 1/8. That's one way to do these. That may not work all the time. We'll see that more in problem 23. The other way to do this is to make the sample space. A Punnett square works great if you have 2 events, but this is 3 events. You need to make a tree diagram. And they take up plenty of space. Luckily this time I think I've got enough space. You branch off for each event. So this is the first coin. I could get either heads or tails when I flip the first coin. Then you branch off for the second event. In that case, this will be the second coin. After getting heads on the first coin, I could get heads or tails on the second coin. If you're getting tails on the first coin, I could get heads or tails on the second coin. I kind of wish I had spread these out just a little bit more maybe, because I've still got a third coin to toss. I need to branch off again for my third coin. And after getting heads and then heads, I could get heads or tails on the third coin. After getting heads and then tails, I could get heads or tails on the third coin. Tails and then heads, I could get heads or tails on the third coin. Tails and tails, I could get heads or tails on the third coin. The last step, list the possible outcomes. Follow the lines across. This would be heads, 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 getting heads on all 3 coins. This one, heads, and then tails on the third coin. Heads on the first, tails on the second, heads on the third, heads on the first, tails on the second, tails on the third, and so on. Just follow the lines across to fill in this list. Tails, heads, heads, tails, heads, tails, 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 heads, and finally getting tails on all 3 coins. Tails, tails, tails. Okay, you really want that list so that you can answer the questions. Again, the probability of getting all heads. Again, this is your list of possible outcomes. 2, 4, 6. There are 8 possible outcomes. The only one that is all heads is this one right here. So again, the probability is going to be 1/8. The probability of getting 2 tails, look at your list of events. The only ones that have 2 tails would be this one. This has 2 tails. This has 2 tails. So there are 3 of them that have 2 tails, again, out of 8 possible. The probability of 2 tails is 3/8. The probability of no heads. The only one that doesn't have any heads is this one. Yeah, you'd have to get tails on all 3 flips. So the probability of no heads, there's 1 favorable, and again, 8 possible outcomes. So that is the probability.